Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Natural Super Kids podcast. Today, we are diving into the fascinating world of the gut microbiome. So, I've talked about the gut microbiome a lot on this podcast, and, within the work that we do here at Natural Super Kids on Instagram and within our Natural Super Kids Club membership, I'm always harping on about how important the gut microbiome is for a child's overall health and nutrition and development. But I wanted to dedicate a podcast episode solely to the gut microbiome. I think those of you in our Natural Super Kids community know the term and know a little bit about the gut microbiome, but I wanted to delve a bit deeper and really explain what the gut microbiome is, what its significance is when it comes to our children's health, to give you a bit more of an understanding of why I'm talking about it so often. I find this such a fascinating topic, and I hope you do too. So, what exactly is the gut microbiome? Well, it's complex, and it's really a diverse community of microorganisms that live within our child's digestive tract, specifically in the large intestine. So the microorganisms included in the microbiome include bacteria. We talk about bacteria often, but there's also viruses and fungi and more. We can really picture it as a bustling city within our child's large intestine with different microbial inhabitants playing essential roles. And if we think about it as this bustling city, let's talk about why it's so important when it comes to our children's health. So it turns out that the gut microbiome, it's sort of like a control center for various aspects of our children's health. And from the moment they are born, it plays a crucial role in shaping a child's growth, development, and also overall well-being. Really interestingly, and you may have heard this before, but there are trillions of microbes in the gut. In fact, there are more microbial cells within our child's body than human cells. And this goes for adults as well. So you can argue that we are more bacteria than we are ourselves. Isn't that fascinating when you really let that sink in? The gut microbiome is often referred to as our second brain because it communicates with the central nervous system and can influence mood and behavior, which is really important to be thinking about when it comes to our kids. And so many of our kids are struggling with mood issues, behavioral challenges, sleep issues as well. And the gut microbiome, can really influence these areas of our children's well-being. So from the moment our children are born, our babies are born, their gut microbiome begins to take shape. And this early development of the gut microbiome really does set the stage for their health over the long term, over their lifetime. So one of the key roles that the gut microbiome plays in children is in their growth and their development. So the gut microbiome helps a child absorb essential nutrients from the food that they're eating, ensuring that they're getting all the ingredients and the building blocks they need for that growth and development that happens at such a rapid pace in those early years, particularly. The gut microbiome is also really important in shaping a child's immune system and the development of healthy immunity in our children. So, the gut microbiome, you can almost see it as a teacher. It helps the immune system learn how to differentiate between harmful invaders and things that are friendly residents that we don't need to worry about. So this is super important, especially, in terms of what we talked about on the podcast last week in terms of allergies and intolerances. And there's so much that we don't understand about the increase in allergies and intolerances and why that is happening. But the closest thing that we have is something called the hygiene hypothesis. And this tells us that when kids have, or people have early exposure to microbes, that's actually beneficial to their for their immune system and their healthy immune development. And lack of exposure to microbes, especially early in life, is thought to play a role in the development of allergies and intolerances, because exposure to microbes helps the immune system learn what it is that's okay and what it is that is sort of dangerous, and what to respond to and react to and what to sort of leave alone. So in infants, the gut microbiome, the development of the gut microbiome begins at birth. So babies acquire their first exposure to microbes or their first dose of microbes as they pass through the birth canal and also later through breastfeeding. So these early exposures to these different microbes set the foundation for a diverse and resilient microbiome. So we know that babies that are born via C-section and are formula fed have less diversity within their microbiomes. So when we are looking at babies, which is a huge percentage of babies these days, and thank goodness for modern medicine and our easy access to cesarean sections and that sort of thing. But we do need to understand that it does affect our babies' microbiomes negatively. There's certainly things that we can do to make up for that with babies that aren't born, through the birth canal, picking up, having that early exposure to different microbes. So as a child grows, their gut microbiome continues to evolve. A baby's gut microbiome, under 2 years and definitely under 12 months, looks very different to an older child and adult's microbiome. So the microbiome is influenced by so many factors: diet, environment, even the people that a child interacts with. It's a dynamic ecosystem that adapts to changing circumstances. And this is really exciting because it means even as adults, we have the ability to alter and change and positively affect our gut microbiome, even if we've, neglected it in the past, or, it's been through some rough patches, depending on what we've been doing with our diet, our environment. Taking certain medications and things can certainly impact our gut microbiome as well. So let's talk about some of those factors that can influence our kids' gut microbiome. The first one is diet. So this is one of the most significant factors when it comes to the health of our gut microbiome. The foods that our child eats or doesn't eat can either nourish or disrupt our gut microbiome or their gut microbiome. So a diet that is rich in fiber, in vegetables, whole grains, a good amount of fruit, can promote a diverse and healthy microbiome. In contrast, a diet that is highly processed and refined, high in sugars, can lead to imbalances and lack of diversity within the gut microbiome. And this is a big consideration when it comes to, the food that our kids are eating these days. Too many foods from packets, too many refined foods. We know these foods are not great for our kids. Intuitively as parents, I think we know, but they tend to be creeping into our kids' diets more and more. It's harder for us to minimize these foods because our kids are seeing what everyone else is eating, even if we are sort of trying to stick to more whole foods. But, fiber is huge, and so many kids are just not eating enough fiber because they're not eating enough vegetables, legumes, whole grains. They're eating more refined, processed, packaged foods. And fiber nourishes and feeds the microbiome so it can be as healthy as possible. The other thing that impacts our children's microbiomes are medications, and antibiotics, are a big one. So antibiotics, of course, they have their place. I've said it before, they can be life-saving. For one, am really grateful to be a mum in an era where we do have easy access to antibiotics in case we need them. But they also, there's no doubt that they do disrupt the delicate balance of the gut microbiome. Antibiotics, antibacteria, it's the bacteria within the gut microbiome that antibiotics can, kill. That's what they're designed for. They're designed to kill bacteria. And of course, this can be helpful if our kids have a bacterial infection, but they also impact that beneficial bacteria within the gut microbiome. So minimizing antibiotics is really important, and also focusing on rebuilding the gut microbiome post a course of antibiotics is really important as well. Look, kids, some kids are do definitely need antibiotics for one reason or another. So we need to just make sure that we're doing that post antibiotic work and rebuilding, replenishing that good bacteria within the gut after a course of antibiotics. Other medications, of course, can lead to disruptions of the gut microbiome as well. So if your children are on any medications, particularly long-term medications, you definitely want to have a look into whether that medication particularly could be disrupting your child's gut microbiome. If you're a Natural Super Kids Club member, we have a really handy and helpful cheat sheet talking about common medications that kids take and their potential effects on both nutrients and also the microbiome. So have a look for that in our cheat sheet section. If you're not a club member and you'd love to have access to resources like that, we are going to be opening the club very soon if you're listening to this in real time at the end of October 2023. So you can pop your name on the wait list to be notified when we open the doors. Okay, back to the microbiome and things that can influence the microbiome. There are many environmental factors that can impact our gut microbiome and our children's gut microbiome as well. So exposure to pollutants and toxins and certain chemicals can negatively affect the composition of the microbiome. We know that living in urban or rural environments can influence the types of microbes that children are exposed to. So, for example, we know that children that grow up on farms have more diverse microbiomes because of the different microbes that they're exposed to. So it's just really interesting. And I guess our obsession with hygiene and sanitation and antibacterial chemicals, particularly since the pandemic, but even before then, yes, sometimes these chemicals are required to keep certain viruses at bay, but also we need to be aware that there can be negative consequences from overusing antibacterial chemicals, whether it's in hand sanitizers, antibacterial chemicals in dishwashing powders, in all kinds of cosmetic products. We want to be careful in terms of how much of these our kids are exposed to. So, there are many things within our diet and environment and the way that we live our lives in the Western world that are having a detrimental effect on our kids' gut microbiome. And this matters because even, small alterations to the microbiome or imbalances in the gut microbiome can lead to symptoms and disease. So, dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of bacteria, an overgrowth of pathogenic or bad bacteria, and not having enough good bacteria in the gut microbiome, does lead to disease and issues within our kids' systems. The immune system is a huge one. So the immune system, 80% of our immune system is located within the gut, and the gut microbiome plays a huge role, not just in how strong our kids' immune system is and how well it's developing, but also in the balance of the immune system. So if there is an imbalance in the immune system, it can lead to higher incidences of allergic disease and intolerances and reactions and eczema and asthma and hay fever, these kinds of allergic sort of conditions. So it's really important to remember that if your child does suffer from allergies, intolerances, hay fever, asthma, eczema, the gut microbiome is a really important thing to be focusing on. And if your child's getting sick all of the time, it is somewhat normal for kids to get sick regularly because their immune system is still learning, it's still developing. But if they're getting sick all of the time and their recovery is really slow, then the gut microbiome is an important place to be focusing your attention to sort of make sure that the development and the strength of the immune system is as good as possible. So immunity is one area. The brain and neurological system is another area. This is a really fascinating area of research. There is more research being done on the gut-brain connection. Basically, the gut and the brain communicate with each other via the vagus nerve. And we know that the gut microbes influence the amount and, the balance and the way that neurotransmitters work within the body. And neurotransmitters affect our children's mood, their behavior, and their sleep. So if kids are having issues with sleep or mood or behavior, anxiety, learning difficulties, low mood, behavioral challenges that are out of sort of the ordinary for the developmental stage that they're in, the gut microbiome is a really great place to be focusing on. And the gut microbiome has a big impact on our child's appetite and their food preferences as well. So it's definitely got a part to play when it comes to fussy eating, picky eating, kids not having much of an appetite. The gut microbiome is really important to be thinking about. And then, of course, there's the digestive symptoms, the constipation, the reflux, the tummy aches. We talked about this more in depth in an episode, 2 episodes ago, on uncovering the causes of your child's digestive complaints. So you can go back and have a listen to that. But the gut microbiome is a really important piece of the puzzle when it comes to digestive imbalances, symptoms, and conditions as well. So this is why I am so passionate about the gut microbiome, because it does influence so many areas of a child's health. And it's a great place that we can start. Here at Natural Super Kids, we see a lot of kids that might be irritable, they're not sleeping well, they get tummy aches, they've got eczema, all of this stuff is happening. And when we can work on the gut and the gut microbiome and start to resolve, these issues that a lot of parents don't link with the gut, it's really empowering to have that place, that central place to start. Of course, there might be other things going on as well, but the gut microbiome is really important when it comes to absorbing nutrients from the food that we're eating and eliminating waste effectively. So it really is a great place to start and focus on when it comes to kids with mood, behavior, sleep issues, immune issues, allergy issues, and so many more. I hope this episode has helped you understand the importance of the gut microbiome on your child's health. And if this has piqued your interest and you want to learn more about the gut microbiome and how you can really start to work on enhancing and boosting and balancing your child's gut microbiome, make sure you download our free Kids Gut Health ebook. The link to that is in our show notes. And if you're listening to this in real time, in October 2023, we do have an exciting masterclass being released very soon. It's completely free, and you will learn so much more about gut health and how it impacts your child's health and well-being, and also what you can do to look after and care and tend for your family's gut microbiome, because it's not something we just we do for a while and then we can sort of set and forget and not worry about it anymore. It is this constant work in progress. And so on next week's episode, I'm going to be taking you through a quiz so you can determine how healthy your child or children's guts are and digestive systems are. So you know sort of what stage they're at, and that will really help to determine, what emphasis you need to put on their microbiome. Like, do you just need to maintain the microbiome that they've got, or does it sort of need some work? So I'd love you to join me in next week's episode when I take you through that quiz. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to really help you get clear on where your kids sit in terms of the health of their gut. Okay, thanks so much for listening. I'd love to hear from you and any insights that you've had on this episode. Reach out to us over at Natural Super Kids on Instagram, or you can email us, jessica@naturalsuperkids.com, if you're not on social media. And if you know of anyone that would find this particular episode helpful, or the Natural Super Kids podcast helpful in any way, I would love for you to send it on to a friend. Really appreciate any sharing. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next week for that How Healthy is Your Kid's Gut quiz. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.